Old Mr. Abernathy, a man whose mornings usually began with the gentle chirping of sparrows outside his window and the comforting aroma of brewing Earl Grey tea, found himself increasingly bothered by a persistent itch. It wasn't the kind of fleeting tickle that a stray hair might cause, but a deep, unsettling crawl on the soles of his feet. He'd initially dismissed it as the dryness that often accompanied the colder months, diligently applying his usual lavender-scented moisturizer. Yet, the scratching brought little relief, and the sensation seemed to linger, a constant, nagging presence that disrupted his afternoon crossword puzzles and even his cherished evening ritual of reading by the fireplace. He grumbled good-naturedly to his cat, Clementine, attributing it to old age and its little quirks. But what if it wasn't just a quirk? What if that seemingly insignificant itch, the one he'd waved off as a minor annoyance, was actually a subtle messenger? Our bodies, in their intricate wisdom, often communicate in whispers before they need to shout. These gentle nudges, these unassuming sensations, can be the earliest hints that something within isn't quite right. Think of it, a persistent cough you attribute to a passing cold, a slight fatigue you blame on a restless night. Often, these are just that, fleeting inconveniences. However, sometimes, they are the first delicate taps on the door, signaling a deeper issue that requires our attention. Today, we're going to tune into some of these whispers, focusing on specific areas where an itch might be trying to tell a more significant story. We'll explore the messages that persistent itching in our hands and feet might convey, moving then to the often overlooked significance of an itchy gaze, and finally, the crucial importance of paying attention to an itch on the chest. These aren't just random irritations. They can be early breadcrumbs on a path towards understanding our health better. So, settle in, perhaps with a cup of tea, and let's listen closely to what our bodies might be trying to tell us. Because sometimes, the most unassuming annoyances can hold the most vital information. And later, we'll even uncover some timeless wisdom, some guiding principles that can enrich our lives as we navigate these golden years. The language of hands and feet, itches that might hint at deeper troubles. As we've seen, even a seemingly minor irritation like an itch can be more than just skin deep. Now, let's delve into the first area where an innocent itch might be trying to tell us something important: our hands and feet. While an occasional bout of itchiness in these extremities is hardly cause for alarm, perhaps a new soap, a woolly pair of socks, or simply the dry air of winter is to blame, persistent and unexplained itching that lingers despite your best efforts to soothe it is a signal that warrants closer attention. Take Mr. Arthur, for instance. A lively 72-year-old with a twinkle in his eye and a penchant for tending his prize-winning roses, Arthur was the picture of an active retiree. He walked a mile every morning, played a spirited game of bridge twice a week, and still insisted on climbing the ladder himself to prune his beloved climbers. So, when a peculiar itching started on the soles of his feet, he didn't give it much thought. Just getting old, he'd chuckled to his wife, Eleanor, as he absent-mindedly scratched with the heel of his other foot. He tried switching to cotton socks, applied various over-the-counter creams promising relief for dry, cracked skin, but the itch remained, a constant, subtle annoyance that even started to disrupt his sleep. Eleanor, a retired nurse with a keen eye for detail, noticed Arthur's increasing discomfort. "Are you sure it's just dry skin, dear?" she'd asked one evening as he vigorously rubbed his foot against the carpet. "It seems quite persistent." Arthur, ever the stoic, waved her concerns away. "Just a bit of irritation, love. It'll pass." But it didn't pass. Weeks turned into months, and the itching intensified, sometimes accompanied by a strange tingling sensation in his toes. He started noticing that small cuts on his feet seemed to take longer to heal than they used to, a fact he again attributed to his advancing years. Unbeknownst to Arthur, his persistent foot itching could have been an early whisper of something more significant: diabetes. You see, elevated blood sugar levels, the hallmark of diabetes, can wreak havoc on the body in numerous ways, often starting with subtle signs. One such sign is dry skin. High glucose levels can draw moisture away from the skin, leaving it parched and prone to itching. Furthermore, diabetes can also lead to nerve damage, a condition known as diabetic neuropathy. This nerve damage can affect the peripheral nerves, particularly those in the feet and hands, causing a range of sensations including tingling, numbness, pain, and, yes, itching. The reduced blood flow associated with diabetes can exacerbate these issues, further compromising the health and sensation in the extremities. For seniors like Arthur, the complications of undiagnosed and unmanaged diabetes can be particularly concerning. Beyond the persistent itching and discomfort, slow-healing wounds become a significant risk. Even minor cuts or blisters can become breeding grounds for infection, potentially leading to serious complications if not addressed promptly. The nerve damage can also mask injuries, meaning a senior might not even realize they have a wound until it becomes infected. But diabetes isn't the only potential culprit behind persistent itching in the hands and feet. There's another possibility, one that often goes unnoticed until more pronounced symptoms arise: liver disease, particularly a condition called primary biliary cirrhosis. Enter Ms. Eleanor, not Arthur's wife, but a different Eleanor, a vibrant artist in her late 60s. Eleanor had always enjoyed robust health, her days filled with the joy of painting landscapes and tending her small rooftop garden. However, over the past few months, she'd been experiencing an increasingly bothersome itch, primarily on her palms and the soles of her feet. Unlike Arthur's more localized itching, Eleanor's seemed more widespread and intense, particularly at night, often disrupting her sleep. She'd tried various lotions and even consulted a dermatologist who diagnosed eczema and prescribed a topical cream. While the cream offered temporary relief, the itching always returned with a vengeance. Adding to her discomfort, Eleanor had also been feeling unusually fatigued, a persistent tiredness that no amount of rest seemed to alleviate. She initially chalked it up to the demands of her artistic pursuits and her gardening. But it was a different kind of weariness, a deep-seated exhaustion that made even simple tasks feel monumental. Then, she started noticing that her urine appeared darker than usual, a subtle change she couldn't quite explain. What Eleanor was experiencing could have been linked to a liver issue. In primary biliary cirrhosis, the small bile ducts in the liver become damaged, leading to a buildup of bile in the liver and eventually in the bloodstream. Bile salts, when accumulated in the skin, can trigger intense itching. This itching is often more pronounced on the palms and soles and can be particularly troublesome at night. The accompanying fatigue is another common symptom of liver dysfunction, as the liver plays a crucial role in energy metabolism. The dark urine can be a sign of bilirubin, a component of bile, being excreted by the kidneys due to its buildup in the blood. It's crucial to understand that these stories of Arthur and Eleanor, while illustrative, are not meant to be diagnostic. Persistent itching in the hands and feet can have numerous causes, ranging from benign skin conditions to more serious underlying medical issues. The key takeaway is that when this itching is persistent, unexplained, and accompanied by other unusual symptoms like changes in skin appearance, fatigue, or changes in urine color, it should not be dismissed as a minor inconvenience. Eventually, Eleanor's persistent fatigue and the worsening nighttime itching prompted her to seek a second opinion. Her new doctor, after hearing her symptoms and conducting a thorough examination, ordered blood tests to check her liver function. Similarly, Arthur's wife, Eleanor, the nurse, finally convinced him to see their family physician when she noticed how often he was getting up at night to drink water and the slow healing of a small cut on his toe. A simple blood glucose test revealed elevated sugar levels, leading to a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. For both Arthur and Eleanor, seeking medical advice was the crucial first step. Arthur began a regimen of medication, dietary changes, and regular exercise to manage his blood sugar, and he noticed a gradual improvement in the itching and the healing of his minor wounds. Eleanor underwent further testing, which indicated a liver condition. While the journey wasn't over, and both faced ongoing management of their respective conditions, the early recognition of their symptoms, prompted by that persistent itch, allowed them to take proactive steps towards addressing their health concerns and preventing potentially more serious complications down the line. The body truly does send signals, and learning to listen to the language of our hands and feet can be a vital step in safeguarding our well-being. Now, having explored how the language of our hands and feet can sometimes hint at deeper troubles, let's shift our focus to another seemingly innocuous sensation, one that we often attribute to environmental factors or simple tiredness: an itchy feeling in our eyes. Could this be another subtle whisper from our body, perhaps connected to an entirely different organ, the window to your liver, decoding the message behind itchy eyes. Now, having explored how the language of our hands and feet can sometimes hint at deeper troubles, let's shift our focus to another seemingly innocuous sensation, one that we often attribute to environmental factors or simple tiredness, an itchy feeling in our eyes. Could this be another subtle whisper from our body, perhaps connected to an entirely different organ than we might initially suspect? We've all experienced the fleeting irritation of an itchy eye, a speck of dust caught beneath the eyelid, the telltale sign of seasonal allergies kicking in, or simply the gritty fatigue that comes after a long day staring at a screen. These are usually temporary nuisances, easily addressed with a gentle rub or a drop of artificial tears. But what happens when that itch persists? What if it becomes a chronic companion, stubbornly refusing to yield to the usual remedies? This is where we need to pay closer attention, to consider that our eyes, often called the windows to the soul, might also be offering a glimpse into the health of another vital organ, the liver. Consider Mrs. Beatrice, a retired librarian with a passion for birdwatching. Beatrice spent her days surrounded by the comforting scent of old books and the melodious chirping of her feathered friends in the garden. However, for the past several months, she'd been plagued by an incessant itching in both her eyes. Initially, she blamed it on her usual seasonal allergies, diligently taking antihistamines and using over-the-counter eye drops. But unlike her typical allergy flare-ups, this itching felt different, deeper, more persistent, and less responsive to her usual treatments. The redness and watering that usually accompanied her allergies were minimal this time, yet the maddening itch remained, a constant distraction during her reading and even her beloved birdwatching expeditions. She tried everything she could think of. She changed her laundry detergent, thinking it might be a new irritant. She invested in a high-quality air purifier, suspecting dust mites. She even consulted an allergist who prescribed stronger antihistamines, but the relief was marginal and short-lived. "It's just my allergies acting up in a new way as I get older," she'd sighed to her neighbor, Mr. Henderson, a retired physician who always had a listening ear and a thoughtful piece of advice. Mr. Henderson, however, suggested she consider other possibilities if the usual allergy treatments weren't providing adequate relief. To understand this potential link between itchy eyes and the liver, we need to appreciate the liver's crucial role in our body's detoxification process. Think of the liver as the body's primary filter, diligently working around the clock to process nutrients, eliminate toxins, and produce essential substances like bile, which aids in digestion. When the liver's function is impaired, whether due to illness, lifestyle factors, or other underlying conditions, its ability to effectively filter out toxins can be compromised. As a result, these toxins can accumulate in the bloodstream. Now, consider the delicate network of tiny blood vessels and nerves that surround our eyes. These structures are highly sensitive to changes in the body's internal environment. When toxins build up in the blood due to impaired liver function, these irritants can reach the sensitive tissues around the eyes, potentially triggering inflammation and, you guessed it, that persistent, nagging itch that Beatrice was experiencing. Interestingly, the connection between the liver and the eyes isn't just a modern medical observation. Traditional Oriental medicine has long held the concept that the liver opens to the eyes, or is revealed through the eyes. This suggests a deep-seated understanding that the health of the liver directly influences the well-being of our vision and the sensations we experience in our eyes. According to this traditional perspective, when the liver is weak or imbalanced, it can manifest as various eye issues, including not only itching but also dryness, excessive tearing, and a feeling of fatigue in the eyes, even without significant visual strain. In more severe cases of liver imbalance, traditional medicine even describes the possibility of excessive mucus production in the eyes. So, could Beatrice's persistent itchy eyes be a signal that her liver was under stress? Perhaps lifestyle factors she hadn't considered were playing a role. Maybe subtle changes in her diet, or even medications she was taking for other age-related conditions, were putting an extra burden on her liver. Or perhaps there was an underlying liver issue developing that she was unaware of. The key point here is that her chronic itchy eyes, which she initially dismissed as just a change in her allergies, could have been an early body signal indicating a need to investigate her liver health. It's so easy to fall into the trap of attributing every minor ailment to something simple and age-related, especially as we get older. Aches and pains are just arthritis, fatigue is just getting old, and itchy eyes are just allergies. But ignoring persistent symptoms, especially when they don't respond to typical treatments, can have serious consequences. Our bodies are incredibly complex and interconnected, and sometimes a seemingly isolated symptom in one area can be a sign of a problem elsewhere. Following Mr. Henderson's thoughtful suggestion, Beatrice finally decided to schedule an appointment with her general practitioner. She described the relentless itching in her eyes, emphasizing how different it felt from her usual allergies and how unresponsive it was to antihistamines. Her doctor, taking her concerns seriously, performed a thorough examination and, considering her age and the unusual nature of her symptom, ordered a comprehensive panel of blood tests, including liver function tests. The results of Beatrice's blood tests revealed elevated levels of certain liver enzymes, indicating that her liver wasn't functioning optimally. Further investigations were needed to pinpoint the exact cause, but the persistent itchy eyes had served as an important early clue, prompting her to seek medical attention and begin the process of understanding and addressing her liver health. Just as the persistent itching in Arthur's feet hinted at a potential issue with his blood sugar, Beatrice's unrelenting itchy eyes were a signal that something might be amiss with her liver. These seemingly isolated irritations, when they become chronic and defy simple explanations, urge us to look beyond the surface and consider the possibility of a deeper, underlying message from our bodies. Having explored the potential link between persistent itchy eyes and liver health, we now turn our attention to another area where an itch might be easily dismissed yet could carry a significant warning: the chest. Often attributed to dry skin or irritation from clothing, an unexplained and persistent itch in this area deserves our careful consideration. What could our body be trying to tell us with this particular signal? An itch on the chest. Why this sensation demands immediate attention. Having explored the potential link between persistent itchy eyes and liver health, we now turn our attention to another area where an itch might be easily dismissed yet could carry a significant warning: the chest. Often attributed to dry skin or irritation from clothing, an unexplained and persistent itch in this area deserves our careful consideration. What could our body be trying to tell us with this particular signal, a sensation we might easily brush off as trivial? Meet Mrs. Carroll, a vibrant and independent woman in her late 60s, who enjoyed an active life filled with gardening, volunteering at the local animal shelter, and spending time with her grandchildren. One day, she started experiencing a recurring itch on her left breast. Initially, she didn't think much of it. Probably just this new sweater, she mused, adjusting the soft wool against her skin. The itch would come and go, sometimes a mild tickle, other times a more insistent irritation that prompted her to scratch. She tried different lotions, thinking it was just dry skin, especially during the drier winter months. But unlike typical dry skin, this itch seemed localized to a specific area and didn't entirely resolve with moisturizer. Weeks turned into a couple of months, and the itching persisted. Carol started to notice other subtle changes she couldn't quite explain. The skin on that breast sometimes looked a little redder than usual, almost flushed, and occasionally felt slightly warm to the touch. There was no lump, nothing that felt hard or unusual during her self-exams, which she diligently performed. So, she continued to attribute the symptoms to skin sensitivity or perhaps a mild allergic reaction to something new she'd encountered. However, one evening while getting dressed, Carol noticed a peculiar thickening of the skin on the itchy area. It wasn't a raised lump, but the texture felt different, almost rough and pitted, reminding her vaguely of the surface of an orange peel. This observation sparked a flicker of unease within her. She remembered reading something about skin changes being a potential warning sign, though she couldn't recall the specifics. The persistent itch, coupled with this change in skin texture and the occasional redness and warmth, finally prompted her to schedule an appointment with her doctor. What Carol was experiencing could have been an early manifestation of inflammatory breast cancer, a less common but aggressive form of breast cancer that often presents differently from the more typical lump-forming types. Unlike those, inflammatory breast cancer doesn't usually cause a distinct tumor. Instead, the cancer cells infiltrate the lymph vessels in the skin of the breast. These lymph vessels are part of the body's drainage system, and when they become blocked by cancer cells, they can cause a variety of noticeable changes in the breast tissue. One of the early and often overlooked symptoms of inflammatory breast cancer is persistent itching. This itching isn't just a superficial skin irritation. It's believed to be caused by the inflammation and the changes occurring within the breast tissue as the lymph vessels become congested. Alongside the itching, other symptoms can develop relatively quickly, including redness that can cover a significant portion of the breast, a feeling of swelling or heaviness, the characteristic skin thickening with a pitted texture, peau d'orange, or orange peel appearance, an unusual warmth or increased sensitivity to the touch, and sometimes swelling of the lymph nodes under the armpit or around the collarbone. The insidious nature of inflammatory breast cancer lies in its rapid progression. Unlike some other cancers that might develop more slowly, inflammatory breast cancer can worsen significantly within weeks or even months. This is why early recognition of the warning signs and an immediate response are absolutely critical for improving the chances of successful treatment. Unfortunately, the early symptoms of inflammatory breast cancer, such as persistent itching and redness, can often be mistaken for more benign conditions like a skin infection, cellulitis, or dermatitis. This similarity to common skin issues can lead to delays in diagnosis, which can have serious consequences given the aggressive nature of the cancer. It's crucial to understand that while prevention strategies like regular mammograms are vital for detecting many types of breast cancer, early detection based on recognizing unusual symptoms is particularly paramount for inflammatory breast cancer, as it might not always be detectable through a standard mammogram, especially in its early stages. When Carol visited her doctor, she meticulously described the persistent itching, the redness that came and went, the occasional warmth, and, most importantly, the change in the texture of her skin. Her doctor, recognizing the potential seriousness of these combined symptoms, didn't dismiss them as a simple skin problem. She immediately ordered a breast ultrasound and a biopsy of the affected skin. The ultrasound helps to visualize the underlying breast tissue, looking for any unusual changes, while a biopsy involves taking a small sample of the skin for microscopic examination to identify any cancerous cells. The results of Carol's biopsy confirmed the diagnosis of inflammatory breast cancer. Although the news was understandably devastating, the fact that she had sought medical attention promptly after noticing the persistent itch and the skin changes meant that the cancer was detected relatively early in its progression. This early detection significantly improved her prognosis and allowed her to begin treatment quickly, which typically involves a combination of chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation therapy. Carol's story serves as a powerful reminder that even a seemingly minor symptom like an itch on the chest should not be ignored, especially if it persists and is accompanied by other unusual changes in the breast skin. Our bodies are constantly communicating with us, and sometimes these communications come in the form of subtle sensations that we might be tempted to dismiss. Recognizing these potential warning signs and acting on them swiftly can be a crucial step in safeguarding our health and potentially saving lives. We've now explored how itching in the hands and feet can sometimes signal metabolic issues, how itchy eyes might hint at liver strain, and the critical importance of paying attention to an itch on the chest. But the body's language of subtle signals doesn't end there. There's another area where an unexplained itch can sometimes raise a red flag, a place we might not immediately associate with internal health concerns: the skin itself, beyond localized irritations. What could widespread, persistent itching all over the body be trying to tell us? Beyond the itch, 5 timeless life lessons for a vibrant senior life. We've journeyed through the subtle language of the body, noticing how a persistent itch in seemingly isolated areas like the hands, feet, eyes, and even the chest can sometimes whisper warnings of deeper health issues. But the wisdom our bodies offer extends beyond just these specific physical signals. As we navigate the landscape of our senior years, a time ripe with experience and reflection, we begin to recognize that true well-being encompasses more than just the absence of disease. It's about embracing a way of living that nurtures our whole selves, body, mind, and spirit. Through the years, life often imparts invaluable lessons, quiet truths that resonate more deeply with each passing season. Perhaps it's time to draw upon this accumulated wisdom, to distill it into guiding principles for a vibrant and fulfilling later life. Think of them not as rigid rules, but as gentle reminders, gleaned from the tapestry of countless lives, including the fictional journeys we've explored. 5 such timeless lessons emerge, echoing the sentiments of those who have gracefully navigated their senior years. The first, perhaps surprisingly, is the vital act of protecting yourself. This isn't about building walls against the world, but rather about recognizing your inherent worth and prioritizing your own well-being. It's about understanding that your life, even amidst the joys of family and companionship, remains fundamentally your own. Cherishing your own needs and desires isn't selfish. It's a cornerstone of a healthy and happy existence. Closely linked to self-care is the second lesson, protecting your possessions. As time softens the edges of memory, safeguarding the tangible links to our past becomes increasingly important. These aren't just material items. They often hold deep emotional significance, anchoring us to cherished moments and loved ones. Taking care of these keepsakes is a way of honoring our personal history and maintaining a sense of continuity. The third lesson speaks to the enduring power of maintaining dignity. True dignity isn't about wealth or status. It emanates from our actions, our integrity, and the respect we show to ourselves and others. It's about living with kindness, honesty, and a quiet sense of self-worth that shines through regardless of external circumstances. The fourth lesson urges us to cherish the golden time when it comes to our health. Our bodies, remarkable in their resilience, often send us early signals when something isn't quite right. Recognizing and responding to these subtle cues, no matter how minor they seem, can be crucial in preventing more serious issues down the line. This proactive approach to health is an act of self-respect and a way of safeguarding our precious vitality. Finally, the fifth lesson underscores the simple yet profound importance of maintaining cleanliness. This isn't just about physical hygiene. It's about self-respect and how we present ourselves to the world. Cleanliness can boost our self-esteem and reflects a mindful approach to our overall well-being. It's a small act that can have a significant impact on how we feel and how we interact with others. These 5 lessons, seemingly simple on the surface, weave together to form a powerful framework for navigating the senior years with grace and vitality. They remind us that listening to our bodies extends beyond just noticing physical ailments. It encompasses nurturing our emotional and mental well-being too. And as we embrace these timeless truths, we pave the way for a richer, more meaningful chapter. But the journey of understanding our body's signals doesn't end with these broader life lessons. There's another fascinating and sometimes perplexing phenomenon that many seniors experience: changes in their sense of taste and smell. Could these alterations also be subtle messengers, hinting at underlying shifts in our health or well-being as we age? Lesson 1. The gentle art of protecting yourself. The realization that our well-being is paramount, that protecting ourselves isn't a selfish act, but a fundamental necessity for a vibrant senior life, often dawns gently with the passage of time. It's easy, isn't it, to fall into the rhythm of prioritizing others, our children, our grandchildren, the comforting presence of a longtime partner. Decades spent nurturing these bonds can sometimes lead us to place our own needs on the back burner, a quiet sacrifice made out of love and duty. Yet, the wisdom gleaned from years lived whispers a different truth. To truly care for others, we must first and foremost care for ourselves. Our own vitality, our own happiness, forms the very foundation upon which we can offer support and love to those around us. Consider Eleanor, a woman who had dedicated her life to her family. Her days were a tapestry woven with the threads of their needs, driving grandchildren to school, preparing meals for her husband, volunteering at the local library. Somewhere along the way, Eleanor's own joys had become muted, her own desires of fate echo in the busyness of her days. It wasn't until a persistent fatigue settled over her, a weariness that went beyond mere tiredness, that she began to question this imbalance. A gentle nudge from her daughter, a quiet observation about Eleanor's fading spark, became the catalyst for change. Eleanor slowly started to reclaim small pockets of time for herself, a solitary walk in the park, losing herself in the pages of a beloved novel, the simple pleasure of a warm cup of tea enjoyed in peaceful silence. These weren't grand gestures, but they were hers, and in them, Eleanor rediscovered a sense of self that had been quietly waiting. The landscape of our closest relationships, particularly with a partner of many years, also undergoes a natural evolution. The fiery passions of youth often mellow into a comfortable companionship, a deep-seated understanding that transcends the need for constant excitement. There will be imperfections, moments of quiet disagreement, perhaps even a touch of boredom now and then. This is the natural ebb and flow of shared lives. The key, the enduring lesson, lies in accepting these nuances, in recognizing that a perfect partner or a flawless relationship is a beautiful ideal, but not always a reality. Instead, the focus shifts inward to nurturing our own well-being within the context of the partnership. Think of Arthur, a man who had been married to his beloved Clara for over 50 years. Their early years were filled with adventure and shared dreams, a whirlwind of building a life together. As they aged, their individual needs and interests sometimes diverged. Arthur found solace in his woodworking, the scent of sawdust and the feel of the wood beneath his hands bringing him a quiet joy. Clara, on the other hand, found her passion in her garden, the vibrant colors and the earthy fragrance a constant source of delight. There were moments when their paths seemed to diverge, when Arthur longed for Clara to share his enthusiasm for a new project, or Clara wished Arthur would spend more time among her roses. But they learned, through gentle conversations and mutual respect, to honor each other's individual pursuits. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but it was strong, built on a foundation of acceptance and a commitment to each other's happiness, both individually and as a couple. Protecting yourself, therefore, manifests in countless small, personal ways. It might be indulging in a long-forgotten hobby, taking a leisurely stroll without a destination in mind, savoring a quiet moment of reflection, or simply allowing yourself the space to breathe and just be. It's about acknowledging your own worth, recognizing that your life has intrinsic value, independent of the roles you play for others. This isn't about withdrawing from loved ones. It's about ensuring that your own wellspring of vitality remains full, allowing you to engage with the world and those you cherish with renewed energy and joy. You are, and always will be, at the center of your own life, a truth that deserves gentle acknowledgement and unwavering respect. Having explored the gentle art of protecting oneself, we now turn our attention to another crucial aspect of a vibrant senior life: the importance of safeguarding our possessions, those tangible links to our memories and our past. Why does holding on to these seemingly small things hold such significance as the years unfold? Lesson 2. The importance of protecting your cherished possessions. Why does holding on to these seemingly small things hold such significance as the years unfold? As we age, a subtle shift often occurs in our relationship with the material world. The youthful pursuit of the latest trends, the desire for outward displays of success, can gradually give way to a deeper appreciation for items that hold personal history and emotional resonance. It's as if these objects become anchors, tethering us to cherished memories and loved ones as the currents of time flow ever onward. The remarkable, yet sometimes frustrating, truth of aging is that our memories can become less reliable. The sharp recall of youth may soften, leading to moments of forgetfulness that can range from mildly inconvenient to genuinely unsettling. Where did I put my keys? Did I remember to turn off the stove? These questions, once fleeting and easily answered, can become persistent little worries that niggle at our peace of mind. It's a natural part of the aging process, this occasional dance with forgetfulness, and it's something that many seniors experience in their own way. Consider Beatrice, a vibrant woman in her late 70s. She still lived in the house she and her late husband, Charles, had built together decades ago. While she navigated most days with grace and independence, she sometimes found herself retracing her steps. A familiar pair of reading glasses suddenly vanished. A cherished photograph inexplicably moved from its usual place on the mantelpiece. These weren't major incidents, but they were small reminders of the subtle ways her memory was shifting. One afternoon, while searching for a specific recipe card, handwritten in Charles's familiar script, a wave of panic washed over her. It wasn't just a recipe, it was a tangible piece of him, a connection to their shared past. The relief she felt when she finally found it, tucked safely in its usual spot, was immense. It underscored for her the profound emotional weight these seemingly ordinary possessions carried. In our younger years, the loss of a material item might be met with a shrug and a trip to the store for a replacement. But as we accumulate years and experiences, certain objects become imbued with a significance that far transcends their monetary value. A worn photograph album filled with faces of loved ones, a piece of jewelry passed down through generations, a collection of letters tied with faded ribbon. These are not just things. They are fragments of our personal narratives, tangible links to our identities and our histories. Losing them can feel akin to losing a part of ourselves, a severing of a connection to the past that shapes who we are today. Think of Samuel, a quiet gentleman who treasured a small, wooden carving his grandson had made for him years ago. It wasn't particularly ornate or valuable in a material sense, but it sat on his bedside table, a constant reminder of his grandson's love. One day, during a visit from a home health aide, the carving was accidentally misplaced. The ensuing hours of searching filled Samuel with a quiet distress that surprised even him. It wasn't just a lost object. It was a symbol of a precious bond. When the aide finally found it tucked beneath a cushion, Samuel's relief was palpable. The incident highlighted the deep emotional investment he had in this simple piece of wood. Therefore, protecting our cherished possessions as seniors becomes an act of self-care, a way of safeguarding not just material items, but also the precious memories and emotional connections they represent. Developing simple strategies for keeping track of important belongings, designated places for keys, regular tidying to prevent misplacement, perhaps even a written list of where important documents are stored, can offer a sense of control and security. It's about acknowledging the natural changes that come with age and proactively putting measures in place to protect what holds deep personal meaning. It's a way of saying to ourselves and to our memories, "You are valued, and I will take care of you." As we learn to protect these tangible pieces of our past, we also come to a deeper understanding of another vital aspect of aging well: the quiet strength and inherent value of maintaining our dignity, regardless of the physical or cognitive changes we may experience. What does it truly mean to age with dignity? And how can we actively cultivate and protect this inner sense of worth?